Hey guys, Kate 420 back again uh, with a video that the article itself shocked me enough to where I kind of did what I always do, and that's just how often is this happening kind of thing. And as usual, I went down a rabbit hole, and it just brought me back to the fact that um, I am the mother of four teenage, adolescent, or adult daughters. My last one is going to be a teenager this year. I know as a mother of sons and daughters that the rate of suicide in these adolescents has skyrocketed in the last few years. And we're going to touch on that a little bit. But we're talking about a country that because this is in Norway or Netherlands, Dutch, where the law is with parental permission, your child can do what this girl did. So let's see what she did. Yeah, I just can't hit my heart. I think it might be because of the way the girl looks. I don't know. There's always like how you can always personalize a story so much, especially if you as a parent have experienced the situation in your life. So come on, where am I? There I am. All right. So let's get to work. Love is letting go. Quote, love is letting go. Netherlands teen raped his child, chooses to end her life. Now, mind you guys, if you take a look at the date, this is about 2 months old. No, actually a little 2.5 months old. I did not hear about this anywhere. This was not, there's too many news channels making up the newest bombshell story that ends up being debunked the next day about Donald Trump, and not enough not enough mainstream news stations doing stories about things like these. So our children don't feel like they are so GD alone out there. You know what I mean? A Dutch teen who was sexually assaulted at age 11. Her name is Noah, by the way, guys. She was sexually assaulted at 11 and raped at 14, chose to end her life because she couldn't deal with the anguish anymore. Noah Pothoven, 17, lived in Netherlands and wrote in a now deleted Instagram post about her heartbreaking decision to stop eating, leading to her death on Sunday. Love is letting go in this case, she said. Maybe this comes as a surprise to some, given my posts about hospitalization, but my plan has been there for a long time. This is not impulsive. The Arnhem resident said in the post, announcing her choice to die in the living room of her home. The teen explained that she was suffering from unbearable pain. I will get straight to the point. Within a maximum of 10 days, I will die. Now, as a mother, do I feel a 17-year-old is capable of making a decision like that? No, because I'm a parent and I've lived and I've experienced and I know what the life's lessons has taught me since I was 17. But I'm not going to sit here and say that I haven't felt the way this girl's felt, because I've been a 17-year-old was traumatized. So I have been on both sides of this. Very much so. And I imagine many girls listening to this have. Um, After years of battling and fighting, I am drained. I have quit eating and drinking for a while now, and after many discussions and evaluations, it was decided to let me go because my suffering is unbearable. This is my decision, and it is final. I breathe, but I no longer live. And it says it wasn't clear how the teen died. We're going to keep going because there's some more down here that it kind of because what do you mean it wasn't clear how she died? Well, there's more. The Netherlands legalized euthanasia in 2001, the year Pothoven was born. She sought to end her life that way last year, but was rejected, according to Dutch news. The country allows children. I'm going to read this one real slow. The country allows children 12 to 16 to kill themselves with permission from a parent. And if a doctor agrees that their suffering is unbearable and it is likely to continue. Now remember, I'm not saying that she didn't have trauma, but she physically didn't have a chronic disease or a terminal illness or any of those things. Which sometimes depression feels like both. Don't get me wrong. I'm not in any way denying that. Pothoven's mother, Lisette, told the Dutch newspaper, "We wanted her to choose the path of life. A year earlier, they refused to give her permission for euthanasia because they thought she could complete trauma treatment and that her brain could be fully developed before making such a decision." Pothoven, who asked friends not to try to change her mind, wrote that she suffered from post-traumatic stress and anorexia in wake of sex attacks. Last year, she was admitted to Ryan State Hospital, seriously underweight and with near organ failure. She was put in a coma and fed with tubes, force fed basically. In 2018, her 2018 autobiography, Winning or Learning, Pothoven said she was sexually assaulted at her friend's party at age 11, and then again a year later at a get-together before being raped by two men on the street at age 14. I relive the fear, that pain every day, always scared, always on my guard. And to this day, my body still feels dirty, Pothoven wrote. She said she tried hospitalizations and visits with specialists before eventually contacting the Life End Clinic in The Hague about a year and a half ago without her family's knowledge. Her family had no idea she was tortured mentally until her mom found a plastic envelope in her room around the same time filled with fair letters to them and friends, according to Gerlander. I was in shock. Lisette told the paper we didn't get it. Noah is sweet, beautiful, smart, social, and always cheerful. Boy, doesn't that sound like all of our daughters? They show us the best sides, even when they're broken inside. Even when we've broken them, they still try to be the strong ones. We have never received a real answer, she said. Oh, sorry, I was in shock. She was so cheerful. How is it that possible that she wants to die? And we have never received a real answer. The story has been updated to clarify that it is unclear how Pothoven died following Dutch media reports that it wasn't by legal euthanasia. She was denied the legal means, which was they give them a medication that can be taken, with a physician in your home and blah, 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 and it's legal. But the fact that they allow 12 to 16-year-olds to take that medication with the permission of a doctor and a parent scares me because I'm sorry. I've watched abortion go from something that was for girls, victims of incest and rape, go to, okay, well, mothers who can't provide for their children should have a choice, to now we are literally at a point where it is not only okay, but cheered on the New York State Senate when we make it legal to kill your child up to the day of delivery. You could be 10 centimeters dilated and say, "Oh, I don't want to do this," and legally kill. It's infanticide. I'm not talking about medical cases. Please don't come at me. I'm a pro-choice woman. I always have been. I just lean on the side of life because I know it's behind Planned Parenthood. I know what started Planned Parenthood, and I know the evils that it's intended for. And therefore, I can never look at it as if it's doing any good in this world, because at the end of the day, I know how the section of our society that is literally could have a double the population right now today if it wasn't for legalized abortion, and that is African Americans. African Americans would have double the population here in 2019. They have lost. I mean, it is more. There are more African Americans aborted every year in New York City than there are born alive. Look it up. That is not a mistake. That is the fact. we have gone from that need, to provide a service for our traumatized, raped, and incest girls to a convenience. And I don't want this to be the same thing. And I see that obviously this girl Noah, when she contacted the center, she took it that way. She took it as an option, an alternative to with the way she was feeling. And she didn't, from that point on, I believe that there wasn't another option for her in her mind. Uh, this isn't I mean, there's a little bit more. This is another NYP post, so I want to make sure if there is any updates, we discuss them. Cases of this, and it makes me just, like I said, the closer we get to home, yes, here, even in the United States, I feel like the slope is slippery. The slope is slippery. Yes. All right. Where's the camera? This is Noah again, but I just want it's an update. It's a few days after that, I believe. There we go. Let's see. The Dutch, oh, sorry. Yeah, this is a couple days after. The Dutch teen who suffered severe anguish over childhood rape and sexual assault starved herself to death in their family's living room. She had a hospital bed set up. Nothing there. Okay. It just basically says she sought the death from euthanasia without the parents' knowledge, but was rejected. She got depressed more and more. And okay, now I press on the button. Now I say I will stop with all treatments. He said Pauven's family attempted to get her electroconvulsive therapy, but it was denied. Because she was a minor. During the last month, she had undertaken several attempts to commit suicide, there wasn't any stopping her. She just wanted to do it in a way that her family and friends would be okay. I mean, I literally have been in this girl's position. And I think most of us who battle with bipolar or depression or any form of, PTSD or postpartum, any of those things can bring us to these points. So on to the next one real quick. Let's just keep going so I don't have this go on too long. I think it's important to get it out where everybody will actually be able to sit through the whole topic. Belgium. Belgium is also a country that allows euthanasia. It started in 2016. This is a BBC article. Let's see here. Terminally ill 17-year-old has become the first minor to be helped to die in Belgium since age restrictions on euthanasia requests were removed 2 years ago. So there is no age restriction. It just says parents under 18 must also give consent. Doctors use palliative sedation, which involves putting the patients into an induced coma as part of the process. I still don't find that at all. That's not something we should even be remotely talking about. It says that they're not ready for assisted dying around the world. Fortunately, there are few children who are considered for euthanasia, but that doesn't mean we should refuse them the right to die a dignified death, says the newspaper. Belgium lifted the age restrictions in 2014. The law passed by Parliament said that a child would have to be terminally ill, face unbearable physical suffering, which is, I'm sorry, but that's a little different than what we just talked about, and make repeated requests to die before euthanasia. So you got to beg. You got to beg. So this is Belgian Paralympian Marieke Verhout, who suffers from an incurable degenerative muscle disease. She says she will choose euthanasia, but not yet. And then where is assisted dying permitted? The Netherlands, Belgium, and Luxembourg permit euthanasia and assisted suicide. Switzerland permits assisted suicide if the person acts unselfishly. Colombia, which God knows what that means. Colombia permits euthanasia. California last year joined, ready guys? Oregon, Washington, Vermont, and Montana in assisted dying. Yes, I'm not sure on the age limits. I'll have to look them up. Canada passed laws allowing doctor-assisted suicide dying in June of this year. It goes on how much the patient must be, and it's like I said, if it's under 18, it has to be with the permission of a parent. Um, and it says that rate of euthanasia has remained stable at 2.8% of all deaths. That's so what does that equal? The most recent survey in the UK was in 2007, and the rate of euthanasia was reported to be 0.21% of all deaths. And a similar rate has been reported in France, even though it remains illegal in both countries. What do the different terms mean? Euthanasia is an intervention undertaken in which and the intention of ending a life to relieve suffering, like, for example, a lethal injection administered by a doctor. Assisted suicide is any act that intentionally helps another person kill themselves. For example, providing them with the means, most commonly a lethal medication. Assisted dying is used in the US and the UK to mean assisted suicide for the terminally ill only, as for the example in the assisted dying bills recently debated in the UK. This was the quick one on Canada. This is what I was just talking about. In Canada, they began a program where physician-assisted suicide is gonna be possible, and they make it look like this beautiful commercial. Are those 2 sick girls? No, I don't think so. But Monica Burke was a research assistant for this religion and civil society at the Heritage Foundation. The next step for physician-assisted suicide in Canada is shocking yet surprising, given international trends, it says. Toronto's hospital recently unveiled a plan for how to terminate the lives of terminally ill kids with or without parental consent. Play with that one for a moment. You have a terminally ill kid who they've treated with as many chemo treatments as they possibly can treat them with. They have, you've done radiation, they've done all the therapy, they've been on a list waiting for a transplant, and there's just no hope, and that child is suffering, and they're damn brain dead, says the doctor. And you as the parent are saying, no, I'm not giving up. We'll keep trying. I don't care what we have to do. I'm not giving up. They can say that you are hurting that child and putting that child through unnecessary pain and suffering, and with or without your consent, perform euthanasia. And with that, I think I need to light a cigarette. Disability groups are at the forefront fighting against physician-assisted suicide because they are the casualties of this dangerous practice. As this new plan at Toronto's Hospital for Sick Children demonstrates, there is no natural, logical limit to who qualifies for physician-assisted suicide. Yeah, you guys see the link at the top of the page if you're interested in checking that out for yourself. I want to keep going. I've got some important things that I think we need to talk about. I've kind of narrowed down this type of mental condition that I'd say our children, the last 2 decades of children, the last 20 years of children have gone through. And they call it, most of the suicides are related to this thing called deaths of despair. They're usually multiple things at once. There's cases of mental health issues as well as opiate abuse, cases of drug abuse, along with ongoing sexual abuse. There's always it's called comorbidity, and it's multiple things that played. And that isn't that the case though in life? You don't just you don't give up and grab the shotgun because you had a bad day at work. It's years and years of built up, and then feeling like there's never an out, it doesn't get any better. It's always going to be worse. And it's always a pile up of things. I don't think suicide, whether it's an adult or a child, I don't imagine that anyone would just selfishly take their own life without really putting some thought into it. It would take a lot more than just a few things, one thing, 2 things. It's going to take these, and it shows that this whole last 20 years, this death of despair has become something that's really a part of our, like I said, of that 20 years. It has to do with fentanyl and synthetic opioids being introduced. It has to do with overall 150,000 Americans, the most ever, died from alcohol and drug induced fatalities. It has to do with um, our community organizations being completely destroyed. They're not no longer, it's not takes a village to raise a child type thing. There isn't places to turn in a lot of these urban communities, in a lot of these poor communities that could use it. So you've got children who are grown, from the time that they can remember, have been in despair. And a lot of these suicides are referred to as deaths of despair. And that's kind of how I read what Noah's Instagram post and her ultimate ceasing of eating and drinking and on her ultimate death. That's what I take of it. She died a death of despair, and there was no convincing her that at some point it was going to get better. And when you're a mother and you have children who are suffering suicidal ideations or suicidal thoughts, whatever, but you're a mother who you yourself, as an adult, are still day to day dealing with that stacking up on you. How do you tell your child to go, to push through, that it's going to get better, that things do um, work themselves out, so on and so forth, if they literally can see that that's not true in their own parents' case? So what then? That to me is, that's the despair that they're talking about. Anyway, here you go. Just so anybody who says the facts aren't the facts, youth suicide has reached a 20-year high. Cigarette went out. Damn cigarettes. Fireproof cigarettes. Whoever thought of that. Anyway, boys have definitely seen the bigger surge, but that doesn't mean girls haven't doubled since the 90s or the early 2000s. Excuse me. Did it come up? There we go. All right. Los Angeles Times. This is one that I find important because um oh, that's not the one. Sorry. We already talked about that. I don't think I need to read it. This is the suicide prevention one that I think we all as parents need to hear a little bit, um how important it is for teens who are hospitalized for suicide. And they did these case studies on them, and when they're in the hospital, like I myself as a teen had a stint in a psychiatric hospital. It was a few days, but it it's something I don't forget, put it that way. It was adolescent with other adolescents, and I realized that I was not in any case as severe as they were, in that I was not in any way that serious about harming myself at that point. And it actually was something that put me on a path of figuring out what was going on in my head. But what they've discovered is that uh, when they have certain adults who are showing them that attention, that are making it their business to help that child get through these rough times, through the suicidal times, through the get through mental health treatment until they feel like they're on an even scale. They don't have to. Nobody ever is going to be feeling great. You're always going to have mood swings. The normal human has chemical ups and downs. But what this is saying is, if there's an empowering adult in the adolescent who is suicidal's life, if there's someone who shows that they care, and that they'll be there for them throughout treatment, and praise them and pick them up when they're feeling down, and take them seriously when they're talking about death, there's 50% less rate of suicide in those specific cases. A little bit about the show 13 Reasons Why, but I've read enough stuff to say that that was a momentary thing, and yes, there was a rise in suicides, but it actually evened out when the second season came out, and it ended. It completely was a whole different way, shot and filmed in a whole different way as season one, and because of that, Netflix claims that was their intentions to begin with, but there was actually less suicides than average during season two. So I will not be discussing that any further. 7 warning signs your teen may be suicidal. I'm gonna go down here because I know we're getting to the end, and I think us as parents have all seen these. And if you're a teenager who's watching this video, or you're an adolescent, young adult, and you recognize these in a friend or family member, it's not one or two of these that you need to. It's when you notice all of them. When every one of these describes the person that you're discussing, that's when there's an issue. Mood swings, anxiety, agitation, expressing feelings of hopelessness, withdrawal, changes in personality, or a change in routine, self-harming or dangerous behavior, making preparations, or threatening suicide. All right. Um, and last but not least, obviously, if I'm going to do a video on teen suicide or any suicide, should never have this topic be brought out without making sure you leave someone an outlet. If you need help, you need someone to talk to. If you're feeling like you don't want to be here anymore, call one of these numbers, please. 1-800-273-TALK or 1-800-SUICIDE. Never act on your thoughts without talking to someone first. Believe it or not, it's saving 50% of lives out there. So, a youth suicide, it says between 15 and 24 occurs every 100 minutes, guys. All right. All right. Thank you for stopping by. And the Kanika Jenkins update is just about done. I got to figure out how to premiere it live. So stay tuned.